Welcome to
Introverts, Own Your Voice. I'm Tom Marcoux.
And I'm Johanna McLeod.
This episode is about success and risk, your way to confidence. Johanna, I have a question for you. Tell me about a time when you really faced risk and you really wished you had more confidence.
The first time I gave an actual presentation, I was really feeling scared that I wasn't going to be able to get the buyers to do what I needed to do.
I hear you. So what helped you to do better the next time?
I learned to do a lot of practice with my coach.
Okay. Excellent. It's not just practice, but it's actually working with a coach who could help you do better. I've had a number of mentors and I have my own coach. And I serve as both spoken word strategist and as an executive coach. A great coach will have you rehearse well, but will also introduce strategy to you. And that's what we're doing in this episode. We are going to talk about the strategies of how to deal with risk, because risk is an element of becoming successful. And I will just take a moment here because I was recently reminded that even Captain Kirk on the original Star Trek said, "Risk is our business. That's what this starship is all about." Okay, that was a quick version of William Shatner. But risk is our business. In order to succeed at business, in order to succeed at life, to actually enjoy a full, happy, fulfilled life, you must be strategic about risk.
I saw something recently in the news tonight about how people who weren't successful were dying earlier than people who had the success and the budget to pay for health care and other things and have a richer life.
Wow. Well, that's intense. It's kind of telling us that if you want to live long, you better become successful, which
and
means...
what's more risky than in your life?
So I'm glad we're talking about this, that we're going to help people and remind ourselves about what it takes to do well with risk. What you need is strategy. And the strategy that really helps is to memorize certain questions so that you can get full access to your subconscious mind, your conscious mind, and your intuition. You want full access because that's how you make your best decisions. And your confidence is in how you condition your mind to offer yourself the answers. The confidence is not just this mythic, occasional feeling of comfort. Something that I emphasize with my clients and with my audiences and a number of my books is that confidence is not comfort. Confidence is a toolkit, and you work it. And in this episode, we're going to give you the confidence in how to approach those vital decisions that involve risk. So let's begin. We'll jump right in. Now, this is some material that's actually in my book, How the Rich and Smart Break Free.
Nice title.
Thank you. And the detail is that if you know what requires a no, I'm not going to do this, that will help.
It's also, if you know what's a no, you know what's a yes.
It's true. Now, some people are wired where they go to the positive space, but many people, and research points this out, that some people are over 2 times more likely to get something done if it's related to negative feelings.
Oh, wow.
They want to avoid something they're afraid of, so they'll actually go do it. So let's focus on how can you figure out if it would be better for you to say no to a situation, because that's a vital thing. People get into big problem situations because they don't know how to say no, or they don't know when to say no. Now, it looks like, Johanna, you were going to add something.
Yeah, I noticed that fear for a lot of people is a very big motivator in doing any kind of action, whether it's a positive action or a negative action for them.
True. And you can harness what is your unique way of being. You can notice what really makes me fearful. Now, I've noted that I've talked with some of my friends who have been successful in different types of businesses, and what they said was part of what motivated them is they didn't want to feel regrets in the rocking chair when they're 90 years old. That's what they feared. They didn't fear making mistakes, or if a particular business venture didn't work, it bothered them. They're concerned about it. They don't want it to happen or go wrong. But what they were afraid of was having a life in which they had regrets at the end, where they said, why didn't I try that? Look, I saw somebody else try a venture like that and they did well. So let's jump right in. We're talking about 3 particular considerations related to saying no. Years ago, I saw a book written by Cheryl Richardson, and in that book, she wrote, if it's not hell yes, it's hell no. So this is very important. It also relates to the second consideration about whether you can say to yourself, I don't have a burning energy to do this. If you don't have a burning energy to do this, or if it's not a hell yes, you won't be able to sustain the effort and the perseverance to actually do a good job.
Wow.
So this is very important. Now here's an old phrase, if in doubt, leave it out. Now you have to be aware of the type of doubts that you're working with. I remember long ago, Johanna, you mentioned that their considerations have like different sizes. You actually...
Yes, I was saying that the watermelons are the big considerations and the grapes are the smaller considerations.
Well said. And I appreciate that because the point that I remember, I had a decision whether to take a particular job in a particular bank decades ago. And I wrote maybe 6 considerations. I said, yes, take this job.
Yes.
And then I wrote 3 considerations about don't take this job. And the third one just jumped off the paper metaphorically, in terms of not like Aliens, or the franchise of movies, but the consideration turned out to be a watermelon. So it didn't matter if I had 6 grapes on the go ahead, take that job on that side. And so this is also a strategy that you can use. Now, I study a lot of books, and one of the concepts is called the Ben Franklin method, which is you put a line down the center of your paper, and then you write pro on one side and con on the other side. But Johanna, your distinction about watermelons versus grapes is absolutely crucial. And you don't know if you have a watermelon or grape consideration until you put it on paper and you look at it.
Yeah, and if you think about it, with a scale, you can put a lot of grapes on one side, but they're not going to balance out if you put a watermelon on the other side.
Precisely. Here's the next thing that's very important about making a decision. We're talking about the no, like don't do this. There's a really powerful consideration here, and that's you need to realistically assess if you have enough influence to make this thing work. You have to realistically assess if you have enough influence to make things work. Because I get approached by all kinds of opportunities all the time. I cannot say yes to all these opportunities, whether it's to speak in a particular country or whether it's to join a particular project or whatever it is. I cannot say yes to all these things. But I also want to know, do I have enough influence here? Because there are times if you got involved, let's say you had an alliance with another company, another individual, you're doing this, if they will not be influenced by you, you might not be able to save the day. You may not be able to carry on. You may not be able to fix what goes wrong. So if you really don't feel that the person is open to influence, or that is, will talk with you, will hear you, then maybe you have discovered this is a no. Let's carry on with our focus on success and risk, your way to confidence. Once again, confidence is not comfort. Confidence is a toolkit, and you work it. The next thing is to use these questions to see if this is the right risk. And this is very individual. That's why you have to ask yourself these questions. Will I grow? Will I learn? Will I make new alliances? Sometimes you make an alliance with someone and a particular project doesn't do as well as you want, but you now have the alliance. It's worth it because you now have the alliance, and you've seen the other person under pressure, and you've seen whether you have that influence so that you can work together and that they respect you and that they will hear you out, that kind of thing. Can I avoid losing the store? I usually talk about, and in fact I have a video up on YouTube about what happened when Disney's California Adventure first began. They had a park built for 30,000 people, but they only had 5,000 people there.
Oh, wow.
So they were in trouble. And this leads us to the next detail. Can I make money all the way? So they were making money. They weren't making the level of money that they want to with the project, but they were making money along the way. Now, the other thing is, can I avoid losing the store? So can you do a project but not lose the whole business? Do you have to risk the whole business? There comes times sometimes where you have to take a huge risk. But if it's not a huge risk, it's a good risk. For example, at the moment, I have 47 books up on Amazon. 20 of those titles sell every month. You balance it out that there may be a couple titles that don't sell very often during the year. But of course, I was good with all the budgets, and that's important. The next thing is, and this relates to other things we talked about earlier, does my heartfelt intuition call me to go forth in this direction? Let me share that again. Does my heartfelt intuition call me to go forth in this direction? How do we get access to that intuition? Well, we need to train. We need to train ourselves in a couple of ways. We need to train ourselves to listen So we need to also have enough time. So if you can strategically decide, like let's say there's a really big risk coming up, instead of saying yes or no right away, say, hey, how about if I get back to you by 4 p.m. Thursday afternoon?
I was just about to ask, is there a way of doing kind of training wheels for people who aren't used to doing this process?
Well, certainly paying really close attention to these questions, writing them down, getting very familiar with them, memorizing them ideally. And that's one thing, very helpful. The other thing too is I'm going to have a Marcoux moment here. This is where I actually go into one of my 47 books. This one is Soar with Confidence.
Oh, wow.
And the subtitle is An Executive Coach Reveals Secrets, Lies, and Countermeasures So You Excel Like Top CEOs and Leaders. So Soar with Confidence is the book, and I'm going to page 27 of it, and it talks about shift to calm on demand. And this is answering your question, what can we do, like training wheels or that kind of thing? In order to be successful, you must take the right risks. That's what this whole episode's been about. But also, shift to calm on demand, here on page 27, the lie is that it's okay to lose your cool in front of the team. That's a lie. The
I think that would be obvious.
Well, you see, unfortunately, there are a number of leaders who just give themselves an excuse.
Oh, wow.
I'm passionate. That kind of thing. And some leaders get a reputation. Oh boy, that person's really intense or whatever. And they cultivate that. They think that that's strength. What we need is real strength. And real strength is making sure you make the best decisions and you can actually do well with your emotions, not lose control in certain situations. So on this page, the secret comes from Bob Iger, CEO of Walt Disney Company. And he said the heart and soul of the company is creativity and innovation. If you get angry at people, like Steve Jobs was infamous for saying, that's the stupidest idea I ever heard. Well, he's around a team of intelligent people. Some of those people are going to say, well, I'm not going to stick my neck out anymore. Why should I do that? So what you need to do is find ways to practice going to calm on purpose. Even if you just take 3 minutes and you just deep breathe. I would do this. I used to take a particular train to go teach graduate students at a particular university. So what I would do is I would take 3 minutes on the train and I would practice deep breathing, a form of meditation, going quiet. And this is great because I am conditioned to shift to calm on demand, just like we're talking about here in the book, Soar with Confidence. Once again, confidence is a toolkit and you work it. So Johanna, what are you going to keep from our conversation?
I think the thing that I'm going to take away is having those questions and memorizing them so that you don't screw up.
Powerful. So just from my own thoughts right now, let me just pull out some of those questions. Do I realistically assess that I have enough influence so I can make this work? Do I have enough influence? That is a very powerful question.
It's a very important question.
I'm going to pull out 2 more questions from what we talked about. Do I have the burning energy to do this? And finally, will I grow? Ultimately, to be prosperous, to be successful, to make all the risks worth it. If you grow, if you become stronger, smarter, more capable, your team that you grow around you are stronger, smarter, and more capable, you will succeed. Thank you, Johanna.
Thank you, Tom.
We'd like to share that we have an online class called the Introverts Formula to Get Clients. The next class, with some space still available, is in January 2019. So if you want to pre-enroll, you can go to getthebigyes.com and click on the contact and send us a message. Once again, that's getthebigyes.com.
We're glad that you heard this broadcast, and we invite you to
Click to subscribe.
and then you'll be supporting me and Johanna and our message.
And so now remember,
Introverts can show their best self with strategy.
I'm Johanna McLeod.
I'm Tom Marcoux.
Thank you.
Be well.
Bye.